Welcome back to the Daily Social Distancing Show. So, let's talk about some of the other news that's going on right now. As you may or may not know, June is Pride Month. It's the month where we take a moment to celebrate how far LGBTQIA+ rights have come, while still acknowledging all the work that still needs to be done. It's also the month where J.K. Rowling tries to do what Voldemort couldn't and destroy Harry Potter. But this year, Pride Month had been made worse by the Trump administration. They killed a rule that blocks doctors from refusing to treat transgender people, and on Saturday, they announced a new proposal allowing single-sex homeless shelters to turn away transgender people who are, quote, not really the right gender. And you know, it's amazing that even during a pandemic and national protests, Trump has still found a way to say screw you to the LGBTQ community. It's almost like if Hannibal Lecter was on his way to kill someone and then took a quick detour to burn down a community garden. How much hate does one person need? So this Pride Month wasn't looking great. But then, this happened.
A major civil rights decision out of the United States Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has ruled that LGBT Americans are protected by the anti-discrimination laws of this country at their workplaces. They cannot be fired or otherwise discriminated against at work simply because they are lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender. It was written by Justice Neil Gorsuch and joined by Chief Justice John Roberts. Gorsuch appointed by President Trump. Chief Justice John Roberts, the leader of the conservative wing of the court. It is a 6-3 opinion, which in ringing terms holds that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 encompasses lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people in this country, protecting them from discrimination by their employers.
Yes. Gay people across America just got a huge win, and Mike Pence just got a huge aneurysm. The Supreme Court has ruled that people cannot be discriminated against at work simply because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. And the reason is because they are protected by the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And you gotta admit, that is one badass law to still be helping more groups get equal rights. I mean, we have to buy a new iPhone every 2 years, but somehow this act is rolling out new features 56 years later. And obviously, this should all be basic decency, right? Nobody should be fired just for being gay. I mean, the only reason you should be fired is if you're doing your job poorly, or if you're doing your job so well that you make the rest of us look bad. I mean, then you also need to go. Now, the Supreme Court ruling isn't the only good news for human rights that is coming out right now. Because over the weekend, Black Lives Matter rallies continued spreading around the globe.
Black Lives Matter and anti-racism protests continue around the world. Thousands in Europe, Asia, and the South Pacific continued marching to call for equality.
Black Lives Matter still reverberating around the world. Massive protests in Japan, New Zealand, South Korea. This is the US Embassy there.
Thousands of people have formed a human chain in Berlin to unite against racism and discrimination. Participants were asked to wear masks and to keep socially distanced from one another, and they were linked by colourful ribbons, forming what organisers called a ribbon of solidarity.
Protesters chanting Black Trans Lives Matter outside the Brooklyn Museum. A number of groups took part in yesterday's demonstration, with transgender activists leading a march.
Nearly 30,000 people, all dressed in white, in honor of Black trans lives that represented unity in the fight for equality, for justice, for two deeply marginalized groups in New York City.
Yes, from Brooklyn to Europe and all the way to New Zealand, thousands of people from all walks of life are still assembling in the streets to say that Black Lives Matter. And it really is a powerful thing to see. I mean, the last thing this many people agreed on was that Carol Baskin probably killed her husband.